I have built a 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel from Nigeria, an African country. And I need to talk about my lived experience building this channel, especially spending 7 good years of my life being consistent on YouTube, uploading videos, learning about YouTube, and posting from Nigeria in Africa for the entire 7 years. I decided to come out and share my own experience because when it was time for me to grow beyond 100,000 subscribers, I went looking for where I could learn from. I went looking for the creators who had done it before me, African creators especially. I went looking for knowledge. I went looking for wisdom. I went looking for systems and structure that would help me grow better, scale better, become better as a creator living in Nigeria presently. And I really didn't find anything, and I was a little disappointed, but eventually I had to look into creators outside of Africa who were doing their thing and were sharing their stories, their experiences, and how the journey went for them. I found what I was looking for. I took that knowledge, I applied it to my main channel, and that was how I was even able to get to the 100K. So I've decided to break this down into a 5-part series where I talk about my entire experience building the channel. I'm going to start from the foundation, which is why I even got into YouTube, and then I'm going to move into the infrastructure. I'm going to talk about earnings or the money side of things. I'm going to talk about the lessons I have learned. I'm going to talk about what you should look out for, especially if you're going to get into creating in my own niche. My niche is natural hair care, healthy hair care. I recently changed it to healthy hair care because the people who were learning from me, it's got to a point where we were addressing issues outside of natural hair alone, and the people that were learning from me were not just people that were growing natural hair, but also people with relaxed hair. I have done hair growth workshops where it was not just people with natural hair that were learning from me, but also people with relaxed hair. And the things I taught for natural hair care worked for these people as well. And also the things that I teach also work for people that are growing dreadlocks. The things that I teach also work for people that have children, although I don't like to push my content as content for children, because when it comes to kids, you have to be very careful. Kids tend to react more to things, and you have to be very meticulous when it comes to hair care. And I am not a licensed esthetician. I am not a dermatologist. I'm not a trichologist. I'm not a licensed formulator. Everything that I teach about is from lived experience, from the experience of other people who I have come in contact with, from the experience and the stories of the women who have been gracious enough to share these things with me. Now, I have a 100,000 subscriber YouTube channel. I have a 100,000 follower Facebook page. I have an Instagram page with over 60,000 followers, and I have a TikTok page with over 90,000 followers. These are my platforms across different platforms: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. And the main niche, in fact the dominant niche, is hair care, healthy hair care. So across all of these platforms, I have come in contact with countless people who have shared experiences, lessons, expectations, pain points, and all of these things contributed to how I put together the content that built my channel to 100,000 subscribers. So I have a few key points here. I'm going to be speaking from experience. I don't have a script, but I want to film this video in such a way that I speak from beginning to the end, however long the video is going to be. And having a script tends to disrupt that process because you have to make sure that you are on par with whatever is in your script. So I want you guys to pay attention to the way I'm going to be talking about this, because this is also my practice. I started to make long form videos like this because I needed to improve my communication, improve my charisma, improve the way that I looked on camera, and also speak for prolonged periods of time without speech fillers, without without filler words, without breaking to go over my thoughts and then coming back to continue. I also use this opportunity to learn how to speak and pace myself so that I don't stumble over my words, and also so that I don't repeat point multiple times where I've already said them before. So there is a whole lot of reasons why I'm doing this. And in the long run, I'm also going to come back to talking about this as somebody who has pivoted. So I started out posting about hair care, and I have posted hair care content for 7 years on YouTube. I started in October 2018. So I have been consistent on YouTube, and I have posted for a long time without switching niches. So I finally decided to pivot in 2025, and I racked my brain and racked my brain and racked my brain about what I could pivot to, about what I could learn, how to improve my skill. Guys, I couldn't find anything. I finally settled on just talking about my experience as a full-time creator, the creator economy essentially. And I decided to convert that to content. I had first tried to bring this to my main channel, but that didn't work. So I'm opening a new channel and talking about this here. So I have some points here. I'm going to be talking about what made me start the channel, what I thought was going to happen when I started the channel. I'll be talking about what happened in the first few months. I'm also going to talk about what happened when it looked like nobody was watching me. I'm going to talk about what kept me going before there was any evidence that YouTube was going to work. And I'm also going to talk about the moment I knew that this was a channel that was worth investing time into. It is very important that you hear this as a creator who has been creating from Nigeria ever since I started. And it's also important that you hear this from somebody who has been in the hair care niche for such a long time. You will not get this information anywhere else. It's also important that you know about this as a creator, especially if you are a Nigerian or African creator that is getting into the hair care niche. When it comes to niches and creating content for YouTube, different factors come into play, and the most significant one is usually payment, earnings on YouTube. A lot of people get into YouTube because of the money. A lot of people get into YouTube without taking into consideration the fact that your niche determines your pay. A lot of people get into YouTube without taking into consideration the fact that you may not make it quickly. And so it may take years or months before you get your first paycheck. It may even take years or months before you get monetized. There are so many different factors that come into play. I'm going to be addressing the factors that pertain to my niche, which is healthy hair care. Hair care falls under how to and beauty. That's the category on YouTube. It doesn't fall under finance. It doesn't fall under investment. It doesn't fall under business. It doesn't fall under things like how to look after your car or day-to-day living. It falls under beauty. It falls under how to, meaning DIYs. So what made me even start the channel in the first place? Before I got into YouTube, I used to make content, and not content, but I used to post pictures of my hair on Facebook. It was Facebook that was all the rave back in 2018, early 2018. Everybody was on Facebook. Your friends were on Facebook. Your family was on Facebook. And Facebook didn't have pages back then. We just had the profiles where people sent friend requests and you accepted the friend request. So that was where I started this whole posting from. I will post pictures of my hair. I will talk about my hair journey. I'll talk about the fact that I could curl my hair. I could do certain styles with my hair, even though it was kinky, coily, 4B4C. And people started to ask me questions, how do you get this done? How can I do it myself? What products do you use? Has always been asked. What styling tools do you use? Do you make hair for people? All of these kind of questions started to come up, and I was having to respond to the questions and repeat the answers where the questions were similar. So if 10 different people asked one question, I had to provide the same answer 10 times, because usually the people who ask the questions don't see the previous answer. At a point, I decided, you know what? Let me try out this YouTube that I keep hearing about, since I know that you can post videos on there. I used that as an opportunity to answer questions that I was asked and make the questions into videos that were long, and so I could explain well and talk about whatever I wanted to talk about well. That's how I started. So I already got into YouTube knowing I was coming to talk about hair. There were no expectations. There was no limit. I was just using that as an avenue to answer the questions I got on Facebook. And so because of that, there was really no pressure on me. Now, I was one of the first few people who got into YouTube in my city, and I have been one of the most consistent so far. So I got into YouTube. I started posting. When I started posting, we got the first video that popped off, and it was a braiding tutorial video. I think it's still on the channel if you look through my oldest videos on my main channel. I'm going to link my main channel somewhere. So that video took off and I was like, okay, braid styles are working. People like this. I started to post more DIY. I tried posting about beauty like makeup. I tried posting about how to do hair. I just tested different things, but all related to beauty and hair. And I could see the ones that were moving, I could see the ones that weren't moving, and so I started to do more of the ones that were moving. So because I didn't really start with money in mind, I didn't really start with earning, I didn't really start with a heavy motivator. I was just treating my channel like cruise, like vibes, like this is just for me to provide value to people. But you know, when you do something like that, even when you're coming from a place of providing free info, it gets to a point where people start demanding more. People start expecting more. You start getting very specific questions, and you also start needing to do more. I've been through all of those stages because there was no heavy expectation. I was able to take my time and post for years without really expecting anything to happen. I also wasn't aware that you could earn money on YouTube then. So I was just posting my content and leaving. What I thought was going to happen, nothing really. I was just here to answer questions, provide value, and go. But then I got the YouTube partner invite in 2020. So I posted from 2018 to 2020, early 2020, and then I got invited to monetize, which I did. And then I got approved almost instantly. I think it didn't take up to a week before I got approved for monetization. So from, let's say I got approved in February, I got my first payout in May. So February, March, April, May, that's about 3 months. It usually takes longer for some people, but for me, these things happened quickly. I got approved for monetization and then I got monetized. I got my first paycheck. I had to set up my domiciliary account, which allows you to receive payment in dollars instead of naira. I had to set up my tax returns. I had to set up my identification. These are all things you have to do once you get monetized so that you can be paid without any hassle. So once I set up all of those things, I was able to focus on posting content that was going to convert to views so that I could start getting paid better. Because once you get monetized, you need to work almost twice as hard, if not more than twice as hard, so that your views don't just come in or trickle in, but they actually come in substantially enough for you to earn more than $100 to be paid per month. The threshold for payment on YouTube is $100, meaning the minimal amount of money you can earn per month in order for you to get paid is $100. So I put in more effort. I sat up and I started taking the platform more seriously, and then we've been paid every month ever since. In the first few months, honestly, I wasn't really paying attention to any specific thing in the first few months of YouTube. Like I said, I was just here to post, to use the opportunity to answer questions instead of typing the same thing multiple times on Facebook. And so the first few months were pretty much easy for me. I'll post my content, whether I got views or it didn't get views. I didn't pay attention to any of that. There was no pressure also because there weren't really any creators talking about hair, whether it was in my city, whether it was in my country, or whether it was outside. Majority of the creators had just started talking about hair care, and these creators were outside of Africa. They were in America mostly. So they are the ones we literally looked up to for inspiration. They are the ones that we were learning about hair from. And another reason why I decided to bring the content here was because I observed that there wasn't really anybody with our hair texture. African hair texture is quite different from the American hair texture that is looser in curl pattern. So I decided to be one of the ones teaching about these things. And so the first few months were pretty much free. I was literally just posting my content and going, referring my channel to people that needed help, instead of answering the questions by typing. So if somebody asks a question, I'll just send them to my video. I will say, go here, this is what you're looking for. Another person asked a question that I didn't have a video on, I will make a video about that, post it. And trust me, when one person asks a question, you will always get more and more people coming back to ask you about the same thing. That's how it works. So content never really gets old, and as long as you have a video about that thing, you can always send it to somebody instead of typing out the answer. So the first few months were cool. And the next thing I want to talk about is what the numbers looked like when nobody was watching. That ties into the first few months because like I said, it's not like I had any competition. So I was just posting my content and going without feeling pressured to live up to the expectation of having high numbers, regardless of the amount of subscribers that I have had. And that's one thing that I have carried ever since then up until now. Views are something that don't move me. Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook, no matter the platform, one of the least things I look at is views. It's only the only reason I look at views is where it directly affects my payout, like Facebook. On Facebook, we know that you have to have millions and millions of views so that you also earn $100 before you can get paid. So that's the only thing that makes me look at views. Otherwise, I just post my content and go. Another reason I look at views is to know what is moving and know what to continue, what to keep, what to take out, and know how to push the content so that I actually serve value instead of just throwing out content to an empty abyss where nobody likes what you're doing, but you keep posting anyway. What kept me going before there was any evidence it will work? They need to stop typing the same answers to people multiple times. Guys, this thing was such a big deal because and on Facebook then there was also nobody really talking about natural hair. So it was just me they were coming to. So it's still the same thing. I had to just keep typing and typing and typing. And if you're somebody that answers to comment, you already know that you can get much. All of this still boils down to the fact that it was the need to take off the pressure of having to answer the same questions multiple times. I just didn't want to keep doing that. And so I started to make these videos and send people over there. And the last thing I want to talk about is the moment I first thought that it could be real and it could work. It was when I got monetized. When I got monetized, that was when I was like, they finally monetized me. Oh. And then when I got the first paycheck and converted it from dollars to naira, I was like, oh my God. Now let's stop. That's the same thing that happened to me on Facebook. When I got monetized on Facebook, it was like, no, so my content was posting from Instagram to Facebook. But when I got the first $100, because it was $100 they sent first, after like 8 months, I got monetized as they introduced monetization around June, July, August 2024. So I got monetized instantly because I already had the followers. From that time till March, I got paid March of 2025, and I sat up instantly and I was like, see money. And the thing is, even though it's just $100, it's still, by the time you convert $100 to naira, it's over 100K as at the time. So that was a lot of money. So I was like, it doesn't matter, it's free money, and it's money you just get from throwing your content on this platform. So I was like, you know what, let's sit up and take this seriously. Something is happening here. And I sat up, I took it seriously, and I have been paid every month ever since, and it will continue to be so for as long as I am on YouTube. So that's just the premise of me building this channel from Nigeria. I wanted to just highlight a few things to start with. When it comes to building channels from Nigeria, there are so many niches that you can explore. There are so many things that you can post about. There are different formats that you can also post content about. One thing I like to highlight is that your niche determines your progress. Your niche determines your payout. A lot of creators need to understand this before they get into any niche, so that you know that if I decide to face this thing, this is what I should expect. This is how it's going to go. In case you don't want to spend so much energy and so much time posting on a channel, and you later realize after you've built your audience to several thousands of followers that you don't want to do this anymore, you want to do something else, you can still do that, but you may not necessarily be able to pull it off on the current channel you're working on, especially if the niches are not related in any way. So that's it for this video. Let me know your comments down below. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any topics you would like me to talk about, especially for creators living in Nigeria or Africa. I will gladly address them. We need to talk about these things more, and I am here to answer all of your questions. I'll see you in my next video.